This is a Film Dimension interview. I am speaking this evening with Conor. Conor is a cameraman, DOP, writer, director. Conor, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Tom. How are you?
Yep, very good. Thank you. Very good. Glad to be chatting with you. Um, as I normally sort of start with everyone I sort of speak to, how did you get involved with film? And there's lots to talk about in film. There's lots of different facets of what you can do in film, but how did you get started?
Well, very kind of long, circuitous route, really. I never went to film school or anything
Mhm.
like that. But I always wanted to do film, and I was always kind of artistic, very good at like drawing and stuff like that, and big into writing and creative writing and all that side of things. And so eventually, so I worked for years and years and years, and then on the side, I ended up doing this kind of very short course on filmmaking. It was 10-week course in a place called Film Base, which doesn't exist anymore, a place in Dublin, and they do these little courses like, um, and so we essentially we got to shoot two short films, and I ended up directing one of them, and I that went kind of well. There was a lot of like kind of yeah, infighting and kind of it was very like intense 10 weeks, put it that way. But I learned a lot, and I think we made like a decent enough film for what we could, you know.
Sure.
And but I had no clue about camera whatsoever. So then I remember the DOP. She came up to me and she's like saying, "Which lens should I use?" And I was like, "Here, this is a drawing. Just do that, you know." and and then afterwards, I didn't. I wanted to make another short, and somebody like a really one of the lecturers was a sound man on, like, he'd been worked with Audrey Hepburn, and and he worked on Michael Collins, and he just did everything. He's been around the world, like, really nice guy, like, and he kind of took me aside and he was like, "Oh, you did a really good movie. Don't worry about all that crap, and just keep going." So I was like, "Okay, I'll make another movie now." And but I knew nobody, so what I
Mm.
ended up doing, like, I didn't have any context whatsoever, like, and so I bought myself a camera, and I initially hired somebody to do the DOP work. I didn't hire them as such. I got them, kind of like somebody who I thought would be
Yeah.
interested. They were a student, and in the meantime, as we began getting further and further into the concept, I started using the camera a lot, and started doing my own stuff, and I realized, like, I really like this, and I really, have a real kind of passion for this. So I kind of just I went to the other person, and it turned out that by the end of doing that process, my knowledge of camera work had kind of surpassed the person I had brought on board to do it.
All right. Well,
Well, see, the thing is, they were just students, so it's not like,
yeah,
I didn't have any context, like I said to you before. It was
sure.
complete, just. And so I just kind of went like, "Would you like to be my camera assistant, and then I'll do the camera?"
Yeah.
she was kind of annoyed, but she was okay with it in the end. Um, so yeah, so then I shot my second movie, and then the sound guy on that was a guy called Rob Moore, who's quite successful now at the moment, actually, in Ireland, and he was just starting out as well, and he kind of knew this filmmaking group called Kino. And Kino is like this international filmmaking. You might have heard of it, like, where people kind of go to different cities. You know, they know each other from from other Kino events, and they all go
Yeah.
to different cities, and pool all the resources together and all the talent and just make kind of short films in the space of a week or even a weekend or whatever, you know. And it's really interesting. It's really cool. Definitely recommend it for beginners. Maybe if you're kind of a couple of years in and you're more kind of professionally set up and stuff, I probably wouldn't recommend it for people like that. But so anyway, I went along to them and I just shot my own stuff, shorts, just experimental stuff. I was always into experimental stuff. Sorry. And I just kind of screened a few of them and people just started asking me would I like to shoot their stuff. And
wow, I mean that's a pretty good confirmation that you're doing something right. That, if, as I said, you're learning as you go along, and people are recognizing what you're doing and going, can you be part of my film as well? You know, that's always good.
Yeah, it was nice. Like it was really nice. And I kind of figured that I think it's easier to kind of get by when you're, you know, kind of a crew member or somebody who can be brought on board projects, as opposed to the producer or the director who's like driving the project.
Do you feel it's less pressure from your point of view?
Yeah. It's less rewarding though as well. You know, the biggest reward is for, you know, the person who's driving the project from start to finish, really. But it's also the most stressful, the most headache inducing, and
sure.
And sometimes it is just good to be just kind of like, all right, I'll show up for a couple of days, I'll do my best, I'll work my bollocks off, and then I'll go home and you know, have viewpoints or whatever. You know.
Sure.
So I like both, you know. But I think though ultimately the real rewards are in directing.
Is that because the way film festivals are set up, because the plaudits and the sort of the awards go to the director, go to the writer and director, and they're the ones that are kind of got the spotlight on them and all that sort of stuff?
There's a bit of that, and like I wouldn't lie if, like, you know, there is a little bit of that, you know, but I think it's more than that. I think it's more like the person who has invested the most in the project, who runs the risk of losing everything if it fails, or gaining everything if it you know, if it just succeeds, you know. And the person who's ultimately responsible for it, the person who sees it through from start to finish, then, you know, like it's really hard work, you know, and it takes a lot of just perseverance, really. It can be very frustrating, but I think that is that role, and you know, sometimes it's not even the director's role, sometimes it's the producer's role or whatever. So but I think centrally every film needs that kind of person who is just, no matter if nobody else shows up, they're there, you know, or you know, they're gonna make sure that something is screened at some point, you know. But I think that person, you know, the film is their baby, you know, essentially, and that's why that's most rewarding, I think. And I suppose, you know, like film festivals reflect that, or the way the, you know, it's set up, like that you know, that the directors do get the most amount of praises because it's tough, you know.
Absolutely. So to this point, how many short films have you produced or directed or written yourself, and how many have you sort of been involved with for other people?
Okay.
Yeah, off the top of your head.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe around maybe 5 or 6 of my own. Bigger
Okay,
projects, maybe 1 or 2 smaller things, and then a few unmentionables from early days,
sure,
and
sure.
probably yeah, and lots of stuff in terms of other people's short films.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's all. I always find it's always impressive, and it's always a good sign if someone is constantly making stuff, you know, because it's very very easy to sort of get involved with, even when it comes to a short film, a sort of one short film that just happens to sort of take sort of two years or something like that, which could easily do, and then nothing afterwards, you know, is because it's very easy to get sort of disillusioned and disheartened and just worn out from being part of it, especially if it's dragged on for a long time, had lots of problems. It's, I think, people that have got a number of them under their belt, at least it shows that, you know, you're committed to this life, if you like, you know.
yeah. Well, I think like that, like talent is a very it's really important, obviously, but graft and a good work ethic is always something that people don't really talk about a lot.
Sure.
Uh, in and I don't think you really learn it in you couldn't really learn it in film school. It takes just a bit of and I guess I got that from probably not from film, actually, probably from other things, because I've done lots of
Mm.
lots of really kind of tough jobs, kind of, I suppose, um, where you're always against it, and you just have to keep going, and you have to just
Sure.
make sure that and that's kind of how I approach film. And like you said, I just find that the more plates you have spinning, um, within reason, because you can burn out and stuff. So,
Mm.
but
Mm.
within reason, the more you will benefit. Your work will benefit from just being active all the time. In terms of, like, having different projects on the go, doing different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how do you approach the finances of making short films? Because again, there's the crowdfunder route that some people seem to only be dependent on. I will do another crowdfunder, and crowdfunders are very, very, very hard. Um, how do you approach, as in just getting short films made, because they all cost something, even if it's hundreds of pounds? You know,
Yeah.
that those got to come from somewhere. How's your track record with that, and what's your sort of ethos or thinking about financing your films?
Well, I'd just be very, like, honest. I'm kind of not great at that side of things, and I've tended just to put my own money into it.
Mm.
But then I think I save a lot in terms of uh, because I have a lot of contacts. I can, kind of ask people to come on board, and they'll be happy to come on board. It's not difficult, because I know people, and
Cool.
they're interested and stuff. And then also, I take on a lot myself, so I keep the crew super small, and I just try to, I suppose, just because from working on other things, I know, uh, I suppose, not to overstretch yourself, not to be too ambitious. I should not,
Mm.
well, not, not,
Sure.
not not to be like, sorry, be ambitious, of course, but like,
Mm.
you know, not to be overstretching things.
Realistic with what you can and can't do, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and recognize your limitations, but also recognize that a limitation is a possibility as well for, you know, a new kind of uh, idea, or a new
Yeah.
maybe a way of shooting a scene or something like that, that, you know, and yeah, so I suppose, because I take on a lot myself, I shoot a lot of my own stuff as well.
Mm.
uh yeah, I guess that's kind of how I've approached it. Keep a very, very, very small, you know, crew, essentially.
I think you have to, don't you? Really? I mean, again, I've observed short film projects, or maybe even been around some that they start off with, right, we're going to need £10,000, you know, and you sometimes kind of think, well, okay, great, £10,000, you can do a lot with that, but could you do it for £5,000? But when they don't reach £10,000 because their crowdfunder hasn't crossed the line, or someone hasn't come along and gone, here, here's 10 grand, um, it doesn't start. You know, it's kind of almost like, well, you know,
Well,
what are you going to do to make it? You know?
yeah, like it's kind of like, what is, you know, like, what's feasible, like, you know, like, depending on, I don't know, obviously you pay people, you think about that. So then you think about, are we renting anything?
Mm.
Or, you know, I have a lot of my own equipment myself, you know, so when I do my own projects, I tend not to rent stuff, because I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to use my stuff, and we'll just, you know, we won't get a dolly shot, but that doesn't matter. I'll get some other type of shot that I like, you know.
Mm.
Um, and then I can, you know, when I'm hired on something, I'll be like, yeah, let's get a dolly or something like that, you
Yeah,
know, kind of.
sure, sure.
Uh, but but yeah, so it's just about, like, you know, like you said, you know, just I wonder if, like, if sometimes people budget things in terms of, like, you know, like an official budget. If they went to film school or something like that, they
Mm.
assume that everything is going to be like uh, how a Hollywood producer would budget it for, you know, like,
Yeah,
that they're shooting. But if it's an indie film, you know, or like something small, like that, you know, obviously you don't skimp on anything. It's not really about, like, kind of the sacrificing the quality or anything like that, but
mm.
it's more like, you know, do you need, like, say, like, for in the crew, say, do you need, like like the amount of crew that, say, a big budget short would have? Do you need, like, can you know, can it be contained, and, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mostly it's about people, I think, really, the where that's where the time and money is. And I think the smaller you keep the crew, the more contained it is.
Yeah.
Like, you just move faster, I think, and things like that, you know. And like, even I was watching something about with Stanley Kubrick there the other day, and they were talking about, you know, everybody uh, going on about how his films were, like, you know, he did so many takes and all this. But one thing they didn't really understand is that he actually kept a really small crew who all had fixed contracts. Um, so in actual fact, he was coming under budget compared to, say, the likes of Spielberg or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, and you know, because he was so economical in that respect. And so then he could have more time to, like, you know, have longer time to shoot and stuff. So
Sure.
that's how he did things, you know. So like even those big guys are thinking about things like that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's yeah, I think it's a good lesson, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's finding your way and finding what works for yourself, depending on what you can afford to have work for you. Yeah, whether you've got a bigger budget or virtually no budget. I'm one of the films that you sent me and I watched. I really liked your short film Masks. Do you want to talk about that? Because I was really impressed by that. I really liked it. I thought it was a great concept. I liked the look of it, and it's so. I don't want to sort of sound overly critical of a lot of people's like short films and stuff, but sometimes when you just have two people talking to each other, it does feel or can feel really false and really kind of just they just point to the camera at two and go say something, you know. Yours didn't. Yours felt realistic. It felt believable. Like the dialogue was great, the lighting was great and stuff. How long did that take you to film that? Was it an
Yeah.
easy process, difficult process?
The most difficult thing was getting everybody together, because it was just the pandemic was kind of still going on, you know. And we filmed it last Christmas, the Christmas before this one, and just there was a massive spike in January, you know, so we just missed that spike, you know, literally got out everybody in, and then there was another lockdown. So we were kind of lucky like that. But so the main bar scene was shot over 2 days. One day, was it one day? Yeah, it was one day. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it was one day, and we shot that, and half the actors got COVID, and
Oh, really?
yeah,
Well, so that wasn't
that
great.
wasn't great. Yeah, and then the other parts we kind of just shot them as per people's availability. So I was very kind of I think it took about like 3 months or something like that. We weren't shooting all the time, obviously. It was just days here
Yeah.
and there, depending on who was available, depending who wasn't and stuff. And yeah, so we shot. Yeah, we had one day in the pub, which that was the main day, and then we did the train stuff and her seeing the robbery on one night. Then that was in early December. Late December was the pub scene, and then some bits in March. So we did the chat outside in you know, the conversation between Saoirse and yeah, and Patrick, and then I think we did that. Or was it probably February? I think we shot that, and then I shot the next bit with the two girls, the continuation of that scene. I think we did that in March. So, but I'd written the script to be like an experiment in a way, like for it to be like loose and not to be so fixed in terms of like how it would play, you know, like it was written, had its dialogue, had its thing, but you know, wasn't kind of fully conceived. It was kind of a little bit loose.
Okay.
Purposefully in a way, you know, because I wanted to just kind of do this kind of slice of life and allow it to be open so that I could add things or take things away if I wanted, you know, just on a whim, you know, that kind of way.
Sure.
And
And
that's,
what were the actors? Um, did they like the fact that it was a bit loose, and did they sort of play with it and ad lib and stuff, or did they find it harder to do that?
um, yeah. So the guys in the pub, that was the most ad libbed. So
Mm.
I essentially just kind of wanted them to get to certain beats, and then how they got there, just kind of kept the camera rolling, you know, and then just shot that for ages, you know. Um,
I think that's
uh,
probably why it feels so real, and why it feels that it
yeah,
flows so naturally in Len. Perhaps if it is almost like you're just documenting a real life evening, sort of thing,
yeah, thank you. But like I think really I think there's another element to that is that they were all really good friends as well.
Yeah,
Um, like Sorsha and Patrick, they're Angel and Donald. They're actually a couple. So like and then the two guys are actually really good friends anyway. So
right, right.
I think you're seeing that kind of a comfortability there that's already there. You know, so they didn't have to. There's a natural chemistry, say you might say, you know,
Sure,
kind of
sure.
between the all the actors, and they're all kind of from this same uh, called it's an acting school in Dublin called Bow Street,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I've heard of that.
so they're all from they were all from that same year, that year that they all graduated in the same year and stuff. So yeah, and it was great. Then I did do a lot more work on the final uh, you know, the dialogue scene between Saoirse and Patrick. What I did was I wrote it, and then we did it over Zoom actually because we were kind of in lockdown then, and
Sure.
so I would talk to them about what they felt needed to change, you know, or I think at first, especially Angel was like, "Oh, this is your thing, Connor. Don't you know? Like, I don't want to be too, you know, kind of." I think she was a bit scared, a little bit
Yeah.
apprehensive about, you know, kind of like, you know, not speaking her mind about how she actually felt about it, you know. And I was
Mm.
like, no, 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 please. I'm not like, you know, I really want this just to be as natural as possible. So, and then she just started, well, this it's great, and it was great because I just cut loads of it, but it was so much better for it, you know, and they were kind of inquiring, what do I mean here, and what's going on here, and
Do you
maybe,
think some people, and I don't know, I could be wrong. I don't know if it's perhaps less experienced filmmakers, or maybe it's people who've been doing it for 20 something years. But do you think some people, some directors, some, especially if they're like, say, writer directors, are too precious with their screenplay, too precious with particular scenes and dialogue, and then just not open for any alteration?
um,
Within
yeah,
reason, of course.
I could get myself into trouble here, but yeah, I suppose so, right? Um, it's a difficult one because I think people should be care deeply about what what they're doing and stuff like that, and be very
Mm.
passionate about it. But I think the key is, um, I think there's a fundamental kind of chaos that is there in filmmaking, um, always, you know, and it's essentially you have something in your mind, and you have all these. You're basically capturing a moment in time, and it's never going to be exactly what you thought it was. I've actually stopped, like almost kind of stop trying to preconceive things in a way, that kind of way, because I feel like, no, do it, but it's always going to be more. It's always going to be like, I always think it's much like more interesting, actually, mostly for me anyway. But some people find that really frustrating because they get really bogged down in detail, I think, very minutiae detail at the expense of, the really important things. But I think there's a kind of adage that I think works well in this, that, right, okay, so you get there on the day, the dolly shot's not going to work because you don't have the space that you thought you had, okay? If you can't imagine that scene without that dolly shot and work with something else or whatever, maybe something lighting, then maybe you don't know your story well enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
that's a good point.
because if you know your world or this thing you're trying to create, then like, okay, that dolly shot might have been really good and really class and amazing, but if you know the characters and the world, what you're trying to set up, then you can just be like, okay, well, you know what, this will do the same thing. This other type of thing will do the same thing, because I know this story well enough to understand when.
Do you think? I mean, that's an interesting point. Do you think maybe that's one of the things that's perhaps wrong with big budget sort of Hollywood type films these days, when it's the shot that is more important than the story? Do you know what I mean by that? As in, like, the director or whoever has got this right. It's this, 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 and this, because it's going to look super awesome with this special effects, with this camera position, and it's kind of, that's great and everything if you're just doing a look what we can do kind of thing. But it's like, as you said, it's like, does that amplify the story or not, or is it just like a load of whiz bangs and that's great, but like from that point to that point, you still don't know anything about the character or their motivation or where they're going, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I wonder about it sometimes, and I see it kind of in like, I don't think it's just a film thing. I think it's like, I see it in a lot of aspects of life, like at this current time. It might be something to do with an over reliance on computers or something like that, or kind of I don't know, analytic view of the world or something you might call it, or something like that. But I think it might be a more general problem in a weird kind of way. And it's kind of like, just you're closing yourself off to the moment, I suppose. Like to the kind of the creative possibility of just the serendipity of lots of people being in the one place, within a kind of a changing world, the world, the life going on around them, and chaos, and it never quite being what you imagined. But like, I think if you can get over that moment of like, oh crap, oh shit, what am I going to do, and kind of harness that chaos, like kind of think on your feet, that kind of thing, that kind of, those kind of think quickly and practically, and it actually just becomes so much fun. It becomes like very like it's like, yeah, it's just buzzy. It's like, why don't we try this? We'll just get it. Okay, yeah, let's go. And it's, yeah, it's great. Like, and I think that's one of my favorite things about filmmaking. And it's also one of the most daunting and craziest things about it too. But I think if you can
Mm.
learn to kind of harness that chaos and maintain your vision at the same time, then you're in a pretty good place, I think, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
but I think it's like, it's kind of like a general thing, really, isn't it? It's like, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I don't know, the complexity of systems and things like that. It's like it's like it's that whole thing of just having a plan, and then you get there, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that there was no door over there. I assumed there was a door over there. Oh no. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
your whole short screwed because there's no door over there. And if it
sure.
is, you're kind of like, maybe there's something wrong with the story, or like maybe I haven't thought this through enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of what I think. Yeah.
I mean, again, I always think things like this. Again, one of probably one of my favorite films. I always kind of talk, about the story of the making of Jaws, and just how the film turned out the way it did was because everything fucked up because the shark didn't work, because they had all sorts of problems filming it, and that how different that film could have been if all those things worked, and it would have been probably a worse film.
Oh,
um
100%. It would have been a terrible movie.
yeah, yeah, so Spielberg was blessed in hindsight from the damn shark not working,
Yeah.
and so yeah, you do have to kind of embrace it. I said the chaos. I like that idea that filmmaking is chaos, isn't it? It's controlled chaos, whether it's intentionally chaos or often unintentionally. Even if you're trying to make something that's very, very calm, it's still chaos because there's like 20 people around you and people turning up
And
late and the weather's bad. And
I've worked on shoots where like we have spent like hours setting up shots and stuff like that, and 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 sometimes I feel like it's like, it works, it's grand, but and I think, look, there is huge value to doing that, that kind of way. But yeah, sometimes it can be a bit kind of stale, the
mm,
result is stale, a bit kind of manufactured. So even when you do that, I feel like you still have to, maybe it's through the acting then or something like that. There still has to be a feeling of like, of a spontaneousness to it, a spontaneity to it in
yeah,
some way. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, what in your opinion, what should independent film do that, say, mainstream film, be it Hollywood or even UK productions that have got bigger budget, what should independent small budget films do that the other ones aren't doing?
Um, well, like, it's hard for me to say, really. Uh, a lot of that, I suppose, the idea of harnessing chaos and working with the your what do we call it, your limitations,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, like, I suppose you don't have as much oversight. Um, you don't have as much responsibility in terms of, you don't have to answer to funders so much and all that. To a degree, you probably will have to, but not in the way that's a proper huge big production.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say go mad, you know, experiment, and these are your limitations, are also your opportunity to find your voice or to find your things you like, the things you're interested in, you know. So really just go for it. And you know, like, you don't have to be, you can be as original, thought-provoking and interesting as you want, or you can be as dull as, or not dull, but just follow what you like, you know, that
Yeah,
kind of way.
yeah,
You
yeah.
find your own way. And that's the real thing about independent cinema, is that, like, look, you won't have massive budgets, but you will also have a space which you won't have when you do have massive budgets.
Yeah.
You'll have a space to experiment. You'll have a space to kind of try different things and kind of find your own voice, find your own feet. And I think that is and it's so much cheaper than it's ever been really before. Like, you know, you can get a, you know, camera for a very reasonable price, whereas before,
Mm.
you know, like, and so yeah, just experiment. And I suppose, I think that's the value of independent cinema, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything, in your opinion, that could make independent filmmakers make it easier for them? You sort of touched upon it, you know, the idea of equipment and the various different technologies, editing, whatever it is easier now than compared to, say, 30 years ago. But is there still boundaries? Is there still things that you would like to see change, if it can indeed change? Is there anything that could make independent filmmakers not necessarily easier, because it's never easy, but what's indie filmmaking missing in 2022?
Cool. That's, I said, yeah, that's quite, like with anything, it's money and time, you know.
Mm.
So I suppose if there was more fun,
Is it access to money? Do you think would it be a lot
yeah,
easier if there was more funding for short low budget films?
yeah, but you know, like, I also don't know if that's kind of an answer either, because I kind of understand, like, you know, I think over in the UK there's a lot more actually opportunity for funding actually than there is here, but then it's a bigger pool, so that means that there's also, a lot more people competing for it, I suppose.
Mm.
But like, me and my friend were talking about this there the other day, and we were kind of like being very frank about it. And the thing about short films is that they really only play to your peers. You
Mm.
know, the market is not like, like there's no, like, you can't really sell a short film to a streaming company or something like that. It's not
Yeah.
like something that has a lot of life beyond, you know, like a nice work of art in itself, or, you know, kind of which will be watched by a lot of other filmmakers, but won't go past that, really, you know, that kind of way. You might win something with it and might be stepping stone towards other things, you know. But so I can understand why there isn't that many funds for short films, and they always seem to be like, uh, you know, the goodness of our hearts kind of, you know,
Sure.
funding schemes, you know. Um,
You know,
so
I always think it's kind of strange how short films, I mean, and you're absolutely right, how you've got to kind of really be into short films to seek them out if you're not another filmmaker. But
yeah,
certainly with the internet and the way things like YouTube and stuff I mean, lots of videos are like under 10 minutes now, and you've got the whole kind of, Netflix binge watching episodes. Certainly if they're like a series and each episode is like 20 minutes or something, it's like, why aren't more people going, right, I just want to watch a 10-minute film rather than a 3-hour film? You would think that people's attention span is getting like less and less, on the phones all the time. You would think that short films would be like really popular with just people that like watching film.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason it just hasn't really caught on. I would say that it's probably a marketing thing. I'm pretty sure that if some pretty clever company, put a lot of money into, like marketing short films, that it would take off, in a more kind of sustained way, But as well, it's really hard to make a good short, being honest, and it's because everybody who makes shorts wants to make a feature,
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like, I don't know, me personally anyway, I'm thinking of trying just going straight for features after, separate from the camera work, because obviously the camera work is on just different jobs and stuff like that. But just going for like a very realistic feature that I could, shoot over a period of time where, where I don't have to worry about continuity and stuff, and maybe a similar approach to masks, which you've seen before. But the thing about a feature is that there's like the streaming companies, and then there's like the streaming companies there's like, apparently there's a huge there's a big Indian company that like just buys up features all the time to sell on to their market, and so there's a huge market for content in terms of feature films. You could get it up on Amazon, you can get it up, like you could even get it up on Netflix. They will, if it's good and they're all right with it, they, it could work for them, so yeah, so I suppose the key then would to be just trying to bring it back to like just a general nice little soundbite. But
Sure.
But I suppose what I'm thinking about these days is that maybe trying to make the features maybe a focus on features rather than shorts, I suppose.
Yeah, because as I said, you can sell a feature, and that's the thing, whether one does or not, whether one can get a good distribution deal. I've heard lots of horror stories of people getting paid very little money and never getting royalties, all that sort of stuff. But that's the traditional thing, is basically make some shorts so you can make a feature. And it's hard, but every aspect of filmmaking is hard, isn't it? That's something you would like to try to do in the near future, is you're thinking about doing a feature.
Yeah, I think so. I just kind of shot a feature there for some people there in December. So my mind is like thinking like that now, because it's an awful lot of work, but it's great though, so because I like, like everybody who gets into movies, like, in any way, got into them because they were watching features, they weren't watching shorts, that kind of way. So everybody wants to make a feature, and that's why I think so many shorts are pretty bad, to be honest. It's because this story, there's more to this story than this, or this person wants to tell a bigger story than the short is, and then the short format is allowing for, that kind of way. So yeah, so that's kind of, just something I've been thinking about lately anyway.
Sure. If anyone wants to like basically find out more about the other films you've done or the feature film that you're going to be doing, do you want to mention your sort of social media, how people could follow you and find out more about yourself, your posts, and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I'm on. I have a website. I suppose maybe I'll send you on the link later or something.
Yeah, I can put that up. That's not a problem. And
Um,
you're on Twitter as well, aren't you? So I put your Twitter details up.
but me and my friend Tommy are setting up. He's from Cornwall, actually, Tommy.
Okay.
We are setting up a production company called AE Films. So he's based in Barcelona, but I made a few films with him, and we're kind of good buddies and stuff. So we're setting up a production company called AE Films. So a lot of the Masks is an AE Films production, and
Cool.
some of his movies. So yeah, so just yeah.
Cool.
And then I've got another short coming out called Master Slave, the black and white kind of very dark kind of fantasy, I suppose, and that's near completion. So we have everything near, probably one more edit away from final cut, picture lock. I mean, and then it'll be away to the sound. But that's a very kind of dark, cerebral thing. So, but it's
certainly like to watch it. Are you going to go through the whole festival route with that?
I think so. But I never really. I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of that end of things. So I do it, and then I'm like, oh, let's just stick it up online, or something.
Sure.
But it's cool, like, but I guess from being a cameraman, I'd be more comfortable on a set making jokes and, working, my ears off, than kind of standing up and being like, hey everybody, this is my movie.
Sure.
Yeah. So
yeah. Again, it's there's a particular talent for getting in festivals and winning awards and finding the right ones. And of course, there's a fair bit of money involved as well. And it is a business at the end of the day. All these festivals are run for profit making. So it's, yes, swings and roundabouts.
I love festivals. I think they're a great crack, but I really just wish that somebody else would do all that for me.
Sure. I mean, that there are people that do that as companies, and maybe that's a producer that you can get involved with who likes that side of it. I want to thank you for your time. We've been talking for pretty much an hour. That's flown by. And again, I will put all your details up when I post this online. People can check out your website and your social media. And yeah, I would be really interested in your future films. I'd like to watch them, and hopefully we could put them on the TheFilmDimension and everything else. So yeah, thank you very much for speaking.
Brilliant, Tom. No, better. Really interesting conversation anyway. So yeah, cool. And I look forward to seeing more from TheFilmDimension as well. So.
Thank you very much.